Hey everyone, and welcome to our special South Asian Success session today with a almost birthday girl, Maranda Dziekonski. And Miranda is going to be talking to us about kind of an interesting topic today. One that I actually honed in on, I think, way back when I reached out to you because of some LinkedIn posting that you did. And the reason I wanted to bring it to South Asian Success is you talked about your roots, right? And you often talk about it, and you talk about like where you've worked, different jobs you've had, different things you've done. And I love that story because I think so many people not only didn't know that about you, but also will get to know today. But beyond that, it's a story that many customer success people have in common, right? Is that you may have come from somewhere else, you may have come from a different background, and you often feel a little bit displaced. But how do you kind of take that and leverage it to drive your professional growth? And I just thought that was a really cool outlook. So welcome officially to our session.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Just for everyone, I'm going to go through a couple of logistics really quickly. So we have a small group right now, so you don't have to keep your microphone muted unless you have a lot of background noise. That's preferred. Feel free to ask questions in the chat or just raise your hand if you have something, that you want to bring up in the middle. We will have like plenty of time to chat with Miranda. Be engaged. We would love to hear from you. And we will be recording. We put our post on YouTube because we have a global audience. We don't always hit the time zones for everybody. So this way we get people that can access it no matter where they are. So right now we're kind of missing some of our Asia counterparts because it's very early in the morning for them. And our agenda, pretty simplistic here. We don't go into a lot of complexity here, but we want to introduce Miranda and give her a chance to introduce herself. We'll be talking about her experience and her roots and how she really honed in on her professional growth and what advice she has for us. And then we'll have some chats and Q&A. So real quick about South Asian Success, who are we? We are a growing community, 1.5 years old-ish, right? And we're really focused on creating a collaborative space for customer success and revenue professionals who have South Asian heritage to come and celebrate shared culture, learn together, drive diversity in thought and practice. One of the things that's been happening this year, which is kind of interesting, is we're also providing access to folks that haven't had it to very interesting CS leaders, right? Like Miranda, that, you're a busy person. So we really appreciate having you here because it gives folks around the world a chance to meet you and ask questions and learn more about you. And so that's something we've really been honing in on this year, is to provide a little of that insight globally. We are mostly virtual, but we do some in-person things, and we're sponsored by Customer X Success, which is my company that I run. And Miranda, I'm not going to do your intro for you because we have a small group. I would love for you to do your intro. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tons of experience here. Tell us about your background in customer success, but in just like professional life and personal life, if you're willing to share.
Yeah. So thank you for having me. I know a lot of folks will be listening to the recording after the fact. So I will just say I'm so happy to be here and to be supporting this community. I'm Maranda Dziekonski. I am the Vice President of Customer Success at a company named ID.me. ID.me is my 10th tech company. I have been doing customer success type work now for 25 years. So yeah, it's been a long, long ride. I've been a part of 4 companies who have had successful exits. I've also been a part of multiple that have failed or have gone under. And then I have been part of some that are still kind of lingering on. I have experience at companies as large as $40 billion a year plus in revenue and as small as a couple million. Us, sitting around a table trying to throw spaghetti at a wall, see what sticks, and see what we can do to continue to make it to that next milestone. Also, a little interesting tidbit about me. While customer success and customer experience is near and dear to my heart and where I've built my career, I also have experience in other areas of the organization. I was the chief people and customer officer at one company and have held the HR COO type title at a couple of other companies. So I have done a little bit of everything. I've owned everything under the org umbrella outside of product and engineering. So sales, marketing,
Amazing.
finance had a dotted reporting line to me at one company, two companies actually. So yeah, I dabble a little bit in everything. Now, what's interesting about me, this is not how I got my start, and this is why we're here to talk. I got my start really working in factories. I was somebody who worked at Frigidaire, building refrigerators back in the day. And I also just come from incredibly humble beginnings. I was incredibly guarded and did not share that publicly until about, I don't know, 3 years ago. Because I don't know, I was just afraid. I'm in Silicon Valley and I didn't want to be judged from my humble beginnings. But then it came to a point where somebody convinced me to start sharing, and here we are.
I am definitely one of those people that saw those posts. And I think that I felt like it was very brave, but I think for this community too, many people can resonate. Not necessarily, that your where you grew up or how you grew up, but it is a different world globally, right? And even just when you think about, you know, cost of things right across the country, right? Like we live in a very rich country. We often take that for granted. So it's been a really learning opportunity for me. So, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I ask people sometimes, since it's South Asian success, are you team chai? Are you team coffee? Or are you team, for you, Diet Coke?
I am definitely team Diet Coke. However, one former coworker a few companies ago, she used to make homemade chai, and we would have like chai day, and it
Oh, nice.
like the office would just smell so good. So, I mean, I'll go for some good chai as well, but I mean, my preference is definitely Diet Coke, or I'll have a good iced tea. So,
Oh, that's me today. I'm team iced tea. So I'm in that boat with you. Um, well, awesome. And thank you for celebrating your birthday with us. Um, okay, so tell us about, you don't necessarily have to repeat your stories that you have put on LinkedIn because I think a lot of people follow you and probably see them. But you said you did take some time and you got vulnerable recently, right? And more recently in your life. That probably took some courage. What was that like, and how did you sort of overcome, right, your own barriers?
yeah, I'm gonna have to like shift myself in my seat to even talk about it. So I was invited to go to London to talk about, I was the opening keynote at a conference, and it was my first time ever leaving North America in 2022, which is kind of crazy, especially seeming I'm much closer to 50 than I am to 40, so even closer as of Sunday. Um, and, somebody that I knew encouraged me. They had this day before the event session, and they were looking for like inspirational stories to, get the community motivated. And somebody, tapped me and said, "Hey, you should really, get up on stage and share your story." The interesting thing is I was on the stage in London sharing a story about how I grew up in poverty in Michigan. I put up a picture of this shack that I grew up in, and you could see people were just confused because they had flown to London from all of these countries, and a lot of people hadn't had exposure to this idea of poverty at this level in the United States. And I had a lot of questions afterwards of, just kind of confusion that I lived in a house without running water for 3 years. Like, folks just couldn't grasp the concept of food insecurity and that happening in the United States because that's not the stories that they hear. But it does happen here. I'm living proof of that. And it still happens here, and it happens all around the globe. But yeah, I'm also living proof that you can make it, out of that, with a lot of support from your community and a lot of hard work. And also, I would say some luck too. But yeah, I remember getting up there, my legs were shaking. I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe I'm sharing this. Like, I felt so, for lack of a better term, just naked. Um, but I've now shared little tidbits since then. The bigger talk, I shared a lot more, but I've shared little tidbits along the way. And I always receive a couple people that'll reach out to me and say, "Thank you so much for sharing that. I grew up with this type of situation," and I think not everyone, but sometimes folks that come from, a disadvantaged community or situation, sometimes you can, have that imposter syndrome that sneaks up. Everybody, no matter where you come from, can have it. But I think it's doubly so when you come from those types of environments. And, I'm hopeful that I'm helping some folks along the way combat that as I still continue to work to combat it myself. So,
Yeah. I mean, many people, I think in and we don't have a lot of, necessarily South Asian folks on the call today. It's a mixed bag, which I love. But for like us South Asian folks, I think many of us can relate to maybe not having had an understanding what it means to have a voice, right? Like just kind of how we grew up. Like there's a lot of stereotypes and things, especially even being like a South Asian woman. So I imagine for you, be adding to your plate, you're a woman, right? And so there's just automatically things that we deal with in society that are a little bit different. How did this like opening up, the activity of opening up, how did it sort of change who you were then and maybe evolve who you are today? I'm curious about that.
that's a really good question. Um, I don't know if it really changed who I am as a person or anything. I've always been somebody who, I'm a pretty humble person. Like it doesn't matter if I was a millionaire 10 times over, I'd probably still live the same way as I do now. Um, and I would still try to help, folks wherever I can. Um, I don't know if it changed anything. I'm really trying to dig deep here. I will say the one thing it did do was expand my community. More folks, felt safe to reach out to me to share their stories. And I found that incredibly enriching in my world. It feels a little less lonely when, there are others out there that, gone through similar challenges. We all have our ups and downs. It's nice just to know sometimes that you're not alone as you went through those challenges.
So glad you did. I mean, it was that post with your childhood home that initially even brought you on my radar and been following you ever since. And I really admire how you're so authentic. And there's parts of me that wants to share so much, but I'm sure all of you on the call can relate that there's always judgment with everything because there are people who actually want to understand and many more who just want to rush to conclusions based off like a fraction of what they hear. So how do you balance like that vulnerability and building that like genuine connection with also not hurting your career long term?
Um, Building the vulnerability is hard. It's still scary. I try to post a post about where I grew up once every 6 months now. And every time I do, I'm worried, like, are people gonna say, "Why is she sharing this again? Who cares?" Like, I have those thoughts in my head, and then I'll message, like, my friend Christy Falterusso, and she's like, "No, you share that," right? Like, I will message somebody that, I'm good friends with, and I have a lot of respect for that I know that they would tell me if I shouldn't. Um, and then the second part of the question, here's my 2 cents on that. Any room that wouldn't want me in it because of how I grew up, I don't wanna be in it anyway, you know? Um, Even if that means I have to struggle a little bit harder to make ends meet, right? I wouldn't wanna be in that room anyway. And I had to get to that point in my mind to make it safe to share like that. Um, there are plenty of rooms out there. You just have to find the right room for you. If they're not accepting of, that maybe you came from poverty or whatever your story or narrative is, it's probably not the room for you. But then there's also the other side. It's really none of their business. So as long as, and yes, I make it people's business because I share. But as long as you are a great team member coming in, doing, and I'm assuming most folks here are probably customer success, doing, the best customer success that you can, giving to your team, giving to your company, giving to your customers where you came from, it's really nobody's business unless you want to share it, right? Um, I've never led with it. I don't walk into a room and say, "Hi, I'm Miranda. I grew up in poverty in rural Michigan," right? It is part of it has made me who I am. I'm scrappy as hell. Like I can build anything, do anything. Like it has made me, I can duct tape anything together. like, it has made that part of me, which is really like something I love about myself, but I never lead with it.
Well, I want to lean into what you just said because I think, and this wasn't in my planned list, but I've seen this lately and I love it. You often talk about the skills learned in different jobs that you've done. And you often also talk about, you know, there's discrimination in businesses, right? Like sometimes a business will say, "Oh, you've only worked at startups, not for us," right? And I think that has been an interesting talk track that you're sharing, because I think it is inspiring to see a leader saying that, right? A leader saying, "Hey, these are the skills you can learn in different jobs, and here's how they're applicable to any job." So tell us about I mean, you've done a lot of different jobs, right? So you don't have to go into every single one. But would love to know, like, what are some tidbits that you picked up from your various industries, various jobs that kind of lead you to be who you are today, and that could maybe inspire somebody else that's done different things, worked in different ways. How do you kind of create that whole self
Yeah,
based on what you've done?
really good question. First and foremost, I will say I am crazy hungry to learn. So it doesn't matter what environment you put me in. I want to learn how everything fits together and works. And that as well as another thing that served me well. And then that's something that I encourage folks, especially earlier in their career, just, and not even early, what am I saying? Throughout your entire career, don't lose that hunger to understand the why. Don't just do, like dig in a little bit. Okay, so I have to do this thing. Why? And what's the outcome I'm hoping to get? Right. And it starts way back. I worked in restaurants when I was in high school. Um, and, I knew the whole flow. I knew the operational flow, right? I knew there was going to be a rush. There's like this bell curve. There's going to be a rush. It's going to be busy, 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 crazy, crazy, crazy. And then it was going to flow down. And there were like operational components of each part of that bell curve that you had to make sure you hit to have that rhythm with your team. And it's the same thing like when I went to factories, fresh out of high school, I loved watching the process. I loved watching how everything is thought out to every little screw that's put into a refrigerator, to a sticker that's put on at this point, and this point, and this point, the whole process and flow. And I understood the bigger picture of it all. I was very curious. It was the refrigerator manufacturing line was a mile long to build one refrigerator. Okay.
Well,
So I could have just every day gone to my workstation, put on my belt with my screws, got my screw gun, just been the happy little like screw gun operator, but that wasn't me. I wanted to understand how it started at the beginning. Like, what did it look like by the time it made it to me? It went through how many stations? So, I on my breaks, I would go and I would walk the line and just look at every little part and try to understand, well, what is the process that it takes to get it to me and then after. Um, so it's things like that. There are some things that can be learned, some things that are just innate to who you are as a human. So really lean in to the things that can be learned and things that are just innate to you, like your superpowers, like double down on them. Double down on them. I see people constantly chasing to improve their weaknesses, which you absolutely should. But if you double down on what your superpowers are, like the sky is the limit. And that's what I've done. And it's like that operational brain, right? I mean, like, look at my books. How ridiculous
I
is that?
know. I noticed your book. But no, that makes sense. Double down on your strengths. I mean, that's like a great piece of advice. And I think people, we often like you kind of stay in your weaknesses for a long time because you feel like that is something to improve. And not to say that it isn't, but doubling down on your strengths, this whole talk's supposed to be about growth, right? And growth comes from leaning into what you're good at and making sure that is seen. Um, I love what you said about learning the whole line. So I have a background. I used to do consulting for manufacturing a long time ago. So I know I can visualizing the line and I totally get what you're saying. What you just said and painted a picture for me for like CS and revenue professionals and anyone in this space. We need to know that picture too, right? Like this is why it's so important to be educated on the whole company and what's happening, what's the role we play. We're not just, attaching the door. We're doing all of the things. We need to know the whole thing. And without it, that operational mindset, you can be like kind of left behind, right? A little bit. Do you see, I guess, what are trends that you see in your teams and CSMs that you talk to? Are you seeing people with that curiosity? Are you seeing people leaning into that? Or are you seeing people still kind of staying in their silos?
It's a mixed bag. There are organizations where they don't make it safe for folks to weave out of their silos.
Right.
And that's hard. That's harder for CSMs. I see that all the time. And I've personally witnessed, environments like that where it's not safe to weave out of your lane and just kind of get curious and understand. But there's still ways to go around that, even if that is the case. Just want to call that out. You have to get creative, build,
Mhm.
friends in other areas that can help give you those insights. But it is kind of a mixed bag. And again, it depends on the human. What I am seeing is, especially in this tough job market, it's the folks that do it well, tend to find their next role quicker than those that don't. Now, I don't statistically know this for a fact, so don't go out and Google and try to quote me, but this is just, what I am seeing from the folks I know that are looking versus not, and how they view their role. If you view your role as like, I need to secure this renewal and I have to create a CSQL because that's what I'm bonused on, versus, okay, I have this bigger overarching company goal. We need to, be at 10 million by the end of the year. We're currently at 5 million. 70% of that needs to come from new logo and 30% needs to come from upsell. And then you back into it and try to figure out, well, what does finance care about? What does marketing care about? What is sales? What is product? And then map it all out in your brain. It's such a different way to look at your job. You're not just doing something because you have to do something. You're understanding like, wow, I'm part of a team. I'm part of a much bigger picture. And this is why that that finance person is constantly messaging me about my forecast, or it's because they're held accountable for this, and that, right? It just totally changes who you are as a team member.
Yeah. I was really lucky to start my career at a really large German company where it was encouraged and celebrated to try different roles. And it was like almost a running joke that everyone was in a completely different role every 3 years. And you didn't do that, you were like the weird one. And then coming into tech now, I love, like, I want to continue doing that because that makes me happiest. But I'm in this current economy, finding that it's a little bit harder to sell that story because it feels like people in this snapshot in time are very looking for someone who's really into one particular thing. But as someone who's also done so many different things and continues to grow, how do you sell that story?
So first and foremost, you have to make sure you're leading with what they care about and what the problem they're trying to solve, right? If you're leading with, I'm a generalist and I can do all of these things, they're not going to see that in the vision. The vision for them is, I have this problem. I need you to come in and solve it. Will you solve this problem for me? Like, don't worry about all my other problems. Worry about this problem. What is the song? I got 99 problems. I don't know. But like, I just want you to solve this one problem. Then once you show them that, look, I'm an expert here, but while I'm solving this, just know these are muscles I can flex, and it's going to make me a much more well-rounded team member for you because I understand why sales does what sales does. I understand why marketing does what marketing does or why product cares about what they care about because I have this visibility. Because I've done it. I've been there or I've been exposed to this. Like you can show that when you're interviewing as, for your customer success role, um, by just tweaking your narrative a little bit. I don't know if that's helpful.
It is. It makes sense. Like zeroing in on the job description and then showing how you're extra great because of this additional experience.
Exactly. Exactly. It's making sure though you're painting a very clear picture, telling the stories that paint a picture of this is what it would be like to work with you. Oh, I see it. I see us working together. I can see the value you would bring. Oh, and my sales counterpart, not only this, but like we're going to be like this because guess what? I get it. I get what you're dealing with and I'm going to help you as well, see our side as well, right? It's going to be like this great collaboration.
Mhm.
I love that. I think that's such an interesting. You kind of asked me what I was going to ask, something similar, anyways, Kirti. Let's open it up because I know there's other folks on the call, and it's not just about the questions that kind of I'm driving, and Kirti here is taking some independence as well. So feel free to join into the conversation, folks. What questions do you have for Miranda today?
I got one if you don't mind me asking.
Go. Yeah, let's go.
Like to think about the superpowers for sure. As I just recently joined Decagon, a startup, I've always wanted to be in a startup, something moving fast paced. And the only way, I found a way in from one of my past superpowers, which was speech and debate. Sales, I guess, was the closest thing I find skills, but I want to find other superpowers. And how would you go about, early in your career finding those superpowers and identifying them in the workplace?
Oh, Zach, that's such a tough question. Um, I mean, for me personally, I'll just tell you how I identified my superpowers. And first of all, I never have called them superpowers, but they are. Um, I just, I guess I would say know thyself.
Hmm.
And it's hard. It's a bit of a journey. I know I'm learning about myself every day. I'm a different person today than I was yesterday. I explore many wide thoughts. I love to read. I love to listen to podcasts. I love to talk to humans from different walks of life. And what's funny is I find that things just kind of naturally bubble up that I enjoy. And I I love creating OKRs. I love
Mm.
and I'm not kidding, like I love a mean spreadsheet when like the fonts are all the same and like everything's all nice and coordinated and neat and 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 some people might be like, oh, like, ugh. But for me, I'm like, oh, yes, I want to lean in on that. I love systems engineering. I love having the opportunity to sit down and build Zendesk. I
Yeah.
don't have much time to do that these days, but I enjoy that. Or, a customer success tool or platform. I enjoy that. I love documenting. I love writing. So really, it's all about knowing yourself and also exposing yourself to as many schools of thought as possible, because that's how you get to know yourself better, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Yeah, so kind of like the things, just find what you enjoy most, and those generally will be your superpowers. The things you enjoy doing might be the best
Maybe
strengths.
you enjoy most, or you find yourself gravitating towards, or you've heard feedback. Hey,
Hmm.
Zach, you're really good at this. If you keep hearing that again and again and again, that's a good thing to explore because it might not be obvious to you that it's a superpower, right? If you have people that are constantly like, Zach, you're really good at having difficult conversations. You just told me that you love, what did you say, debate
Hmm.
and negotiating, or I think that was the
Public speaking, yeah,
public
public
speaking.
speaking, yeah.
Think, um, you know, listen to the cues too that you hear from your coworkers when you get shout outs. If you're hearing a similar shout out, there might be something worth double clicking on to see if that could be a potential superpower that you should, double click on and undercover and see how you can use that in your path.
Thank you.
I don't know if this is this is just personal advice. I've always found it interesting to do like things like strengths finders and stuff like that. If you've ever done it, Zach,
Hmm.
for me, like I know that it's not going to be like a perfect fit. Nothing is a perfect fit. But when I used to do these activities with my teams, it was wonderful to see everyone understand each other a little bit better, or how are we worked differently, right? And how we were actually very much individuals. So like that's a fun activity. It's pretty, you know, you can like buy the book. It's pretty inexpensive to you get the test with the book or whatever. But that gave me a lot of insight on things about myself that I kind of knew. Like I am very much into strategy. I'm not the best. I don't love execution. I do it, but it's not my favorite, you know? And it kind of like said that about me, right? It's like you're strategic. You need to work on not like execution's not your best skill, right? But then it also gave me like an area to work on. So, you know, and you figure out tools and techniques to make yourself better in the areas that maybe you don't like thrive in. So I don't know, Miranda, if you have thoughts on that, but
Yeah,
that's just one example. Yeah.
I love Myers-Briggs. I am an ESTJ all day. And I've taken the test multiple times over the last, I don't know how many years, and I'm always an ESTJ. Uh, my level of ESTJ kind of shifts a little, but usually I end up with ESTJ. You can do a free test at 16 personalities and kind of get your baseline and see where you are. I will say there is a lot of talk about, are these tests inclusive or not inclusive? Are we putting people in boxes? So my only caveat, this is my HR caveat, is if you're going to do them, just know humans aren't static. It doesn't define you. It's not a box that you're putting yourself in. It's very fascinating and interesting, but you will probably be a very different person in 5 years than you are today. Right. And that's true, hopefully, for all of us because we're growing, evolving, we're taking in more information, learning more about ourselves. While I continue to test ESTJ, I am definitely a different type of ESTJ today than I was 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, excellent point. Any other questions from folks for Miranda? I know we had some people joining a little bit later, so hopefully you didn't miss too much of the beginning.
I recognize the name Erin Medina. Hello, Erin.
Hi, Erin. Hi, John. Hi, Tracy. I have more questions, Miranda, so I'll keep going if we don't get any. But feel free to chime in if you all feel free to. Oh, John, did you unmute? Go for it.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm sorry I
Yeah.
was not on camera. I'm just in
Oh, it's
this
okay.
event. So, actually, just would like to know what's the impact of AI on customer service? I mean, we deal with people almost day in and day out, but do you foresee AI having any sort of impact on the way we deal with customers?
So you want to talk about AI? Am I
Yeah,
understanding that?
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's funny. I will totally answer your question, John, because it's very relevant. But I have spoken at 3 events over the past couple of weeks all about AI. And the last one was Nordics CS on Monday. And they asked me if I'd come back, and I said yes, if we could talk about anything but AI. That's all we talk about. So, John, if I heard your question, you're asking if I think AI is going to impact customer success and how we interact with humans. Is that what you all heard as well?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean,
okay.
especially in a world of where we um, try to incorporate and install these chatbots and all of these SMSs, IVR. We're trying to basically replace all of our customer success management folks from operating with our customers on a daily basis. I think AI is playing a really huge role in that. So I just would like to get your thoughts on that.
So one, yes, AI is going to impact how we do customer success. It already has, and it's impacting just how we do business in general. There is my topic on Monday was the good, the bad, and the ugly of AI. So without taking us too far off topic, because I know we're talking about, my roots and me growing up in poverty and making it, I guess, to Silicon Valley to be a tech exec. Um, I think, some of the good things that we are going to see come out of it, of course, is efficiency gains, and we're going to allow teams to be able to do things that require the heavy-handed human interaction. But some of the bad things that I'm already seeing come out of it is folks aren't critically thinking their way through situations. Without doing a full AI presentation here, AI is not always right. Believe it or not, um, I was using AI just earlier this week, and I put something into AI and I asked it if it could give me a quick summary, and it made some assumptions that were incorrect, and I actually challenged it and called it out. I said, "Where did you get these numbers?" And they're like, it responded, "You're right, Miranda. I was making assumptions based on A, B, C, and X, Y, Z." And I'm like, "Your assumptions were incorrect." And it said, "You're right, Miranda." So it's definitely going to change the way we interact with every component in a business, already has, and it's just going to continue to get better and more refined. But I still think that there will be a place for customer success because humans, especially in B2B enterprise play, want to interact with humans. Now, B2C might be a little different. I don't care if I'm talking to a chat bot. I don't care if I'm talking to AI if it can solve my problem. But if I'm going to give you hundreds of thousands of dollars, there damn well better be a human available if I need a human. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, John.
Yes, it did. Thank you. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
And building off of that, trends in CS, it seems like more organizations are moving towards a renewals focus for their CSMs. I see a lot of renewal managers with CS backgrounds. What are other trends that you see really taking over the space?
Yeah, so definitely renewals, but I've had renewals for the past few companies. I actually had a renewals manager that I hired at two companies, the same person. He was really a partnership layer for the customer success manager. We had some more complex contracts, so I didn't want the CSM in there negotiating those contracts. Another trend outside of AI, which AI is huge, quite frankly, is, greater revenue ownership. And I've been talking about this probably for a year or two. I don't even know if it's a trend anymore or if it's just a thing. Um, Not a one size fits all type of situation, but CS orgs are now working really hard to find ways to tie themselves to revenue outcomes. And quite frankly, it's very smart of leaders to be doing this because and I will tell you, as somebody who has personally had to go through the financials to figure out what I was going to cut and who I was going to lay off across an entire company, if you're generating revenue and it's very clear you're generating revenue or the tool that you have is tied to generating revenue, I'm going to look there last. If you are a cog, cost, I'm going to look there first. So it's just smarter for orgs to be tied to revenue outcomes. And I don't know if it's a trend, it's just what needs to happen, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not saying again that it's a crawl, walk, run type of situation. I want to be clear for folks that are listening to this later, so I'm not getting a ton of hate mail in my LinkedIn inbox. Not every organization does this mean that a customer success manager is becoming an account manager. I still think that there is a massive focus, and there needs to be a massive focus on customer experience, outcomes, ROI, all of the things that make it safe for the upsell and renewal to happen. If those are not happening, then we're failing as a CS function, period.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's so interesting because it's like a trend for some businesses. It's not a trend, because it's like everybody's got a little bit of a different model in CS. I wanted to give you a second to read Aaron's question. It's really interesting. It takes a second to read it. So
Yeah.
um,
And also the
I'll
font is, let me make the, see if
I know the font is a little small. I don't know how to make it bigger. I'll read it I'm going to paraphrase it, Aaron, a little bit for the video, but Miranda, you take a second and read it too. You're asking about the concept of VQ, which is vitality intelligence, which I had not heard of before. Essentially, the ability to manage your physical, mental, and emotional energy sustainably over time because burnout has become a big risk, and I totally can resonate with that. So Erin's question for you is, what habits have you developed that keep you performing at a high level, protect your energy, protect your personal life, whatever, how do you do it?
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to chuckle, but I do it poorly. I love this question. I've actually never heard of, but thank you for laughing, Erin. I appreciate it. I've never heard of VQ. This is like a new thing for me. But here's the reality. Look, I am somebody who pours myself into my work. I think anybody who is connected with me on LinkedIn knows, like, I share a lot. I write, and I do this because I enjoy it. But here's the thing, it doesn't just end with what I share on LinkedIn. Like, the big part of my identity comes from who I am in my career, and that's not always good. I just want to be clear, because when things aren't going great, I'm like, ooh, it really impacts me. Um, a few things that I do try to do, and I can always, so one, again, I'll go back to know thyself. I always know when my mental health is suffering because I'm burning out. Here are ways I know. Um, because I am a little, like, I'm a little type A, like, things will get messy in my home. Like, I will leave a pile of paper on the counter like a little too long, or you'll see a jacket, instead of me hanging it up in the closet where it goes, I'll put it on the bench in the walkway, and then I'll have a pair of shoes in the walkway, and then I'll have a pair of shoes in the dining room. Like, my husband knows, like, when my stress levels are high, because I just get a little bit more, when I see those types of things happening. And I like my house to be, just to be clear, nice and neat and organized. And um, when I see those types of things happening, I know it's like a cue for me to, one, go purge my closet, like, do this whole, like, cleaning, like, thing to, make things simpler. Get rid of the clutter, declutter my brain, declutter my life. And then you just stole my thunder, Erin. You know what I'm gonna say. Um, the next thing I do a lot of is I like to escape in nature. So, those who know me and follow me know I'm a big hiker. I actually just started a CS and hiking meetup group. So if anybody wants to join that's in the Bay Area, it's called Land, Expand, and Elevate. Send me a message if you're in San Francisco Bay Area. We're going to do one hike a month together, just CS
Amazing.
professionals getting out into nature. Just, we're not going to talk about a lot of work stuff. Like, if you want to vent, we can vent, but I don't want it to become a therapy session. I want it just to be like, we could shut down. Like, we could say nothing and just go hike for 3 miles together. I don't know. But I love to hike. There's something about getting out in nature that just feeds my soul. Another thing, and this is a little hippy dippy, and it's hippy dippy for me. I come from rural Michigan. I love yin yoga and sound baths. If you haven't done a sound bath, like, totally, it's not for everybody, but we have Joya Yoga here local, and I love to go. And, I was going once a week for a while. I need to get back into it. But just laying in a room in pure darkness and the crystal bowls or bong, it clears my mind and allows me to shut off technology and all of the noise that's going on, and just get quiet in my head. Those are things that I do. Other little things, like, not as relevant. I go once a month. I get my nails done, right? I love to have, like, hot pink sparkly nails. It just makes me feel better. And it's just for me. But yeah, I don't know if I'm doing it super well, Erin. It's a great question. Um, but it's just paying attention to the cues when I am feeling a little bit more burned out, and then hopping on it as quickly as I can to kind of get myself before it gets to where I'm like, oh, I need to face plant into the sofa for 3 days, right? Like, Netflix shames me, or like, are you still there? Yes, I'm still here. Just stop, Netflix.
Oh my gosh, I love it. But no, that's really good to hear. And I think, like, I was actually going to ask you, one of my questions for you is like, how do you do it all? How do you stay so active in all your avenues? What are maybe some time management techniques that you might employ or things like that? I mean, frankly, if I try to declutter my closet, it takes me like hours. I'm just a distracted human when it comes to tasks I don't, that are tedious for me. But I'm curious, how do you keep all the avenues going? Because there are quite a few, that you're making time for, and share some of those techniques. Because I think time management for anybody in this function and field is so, so very important.
Well, first I want to say I don't have a little one at home. When I had a little one at home, it was very different. Um, my son is 24 now. I was a young single mom. So, my 20s and 30s were spent raising my son, and now he's gone. So that frees up so much time because when you have a child at home, it's a different ballgame. You have sports, school, run here, run there, doctor's appointments. So you're raising your hand like that's your life, right? Um, so imagine you have all that time back. I'm not a superhuman. I want to be clear. I just don't have little humans that depend on me to survive. So I have so much more time on my hands than anyone who has kids at home. So if you think I put in, let's just say 10 to 12 hours a day at my job, and then I sleep 6. That's usually my go-to. I'm like a 6 to 7 hour person. If I get 6, I'm pretty good. If I get 7, I'm high-fiving myself. And then that leaves another what? Let's just say 7 hours in the day. What do? You watch 90 Day Fiance, of course. And any other garbage TV that I can get my hands on, that is in the mix. But I am writing, I am hiking, I'm riding my mountain bike, right? I'm not a superhuman. I also calendar everything. I will calendar like go to store. And then I go to the store because my calendar told me to go to the store, get groceries. Yes, calendar. I'll go get groceries now. Um, but it helps to have, and this is just me, it helps for me just to put it on my calendar, and then I listen to my calendar and do what my calendar says. It's like go to yoga now. Okay, calendar, I'm going to yoga. So there you go. That's my thing.
Nice. Yeah, no, I mean, I do have young kids, so I think like I can relate to what you're like. Usually, like for me, it's like, you know, there's like a period of time I have to just like shut down everything I'm doing because they deserve the time. So, but I love time blocking, calendar. That's like me. I live my life that way too. Time blocking. Any other? Just curious if people have other creative techniques. No?
Hi,
Yes.
Miranda. I'm Srinidhi. Sorry, I'm not able to get on a video call. I'm just outside. But thank you, Miranda. I think I can understand now how much uh, time there is to juggle all the things that you do. I want to dig a little deep into, the professional side of things. So I know someone else also spoke about AI. So I want to understand, apart from handling customers and everything in CS, how do we like try to make time to learn things in AI? Like, where does someone get started with using AI and incorporate into customer success is something that I'd like to know, because I've been seeing a lot of posts about AI in customer success and people incorporating AI into customer success, but there's no specific answer as to where can someone get started. How can someone go slowly into the world of AI in customer success?
Yeah, yeah. Look, I am not the AI expert. I just want to be clear on that. Am I use AI a lot, like all day I use AI. Here's what I would suggest to folks that are wanting to learn. One, don't wait for your employer to serve it up to you, right? Go out and see if you can find courses. I know there are courses that people are starting to put courses out. I think LinkedIn Learning has something now.
Yeah.
So check that out. Two, play with ChatGPT. You can use ChatGPT for free. I pay for premium ChatGPT in my personal world because I use it so much. But there are you just have to start having a conversation with AI, and it's going to become very clear how you can use it in your day-to-day, in your customer journey. An example, if you work with, let's say, large publicly traded companies, guess what? They put earnings statements out. Those earning statements are chocked full of gold. They will also put out like their annual plan. There's usually like an annual kickoff, and they come together and they put together this annual plan, and it's a big to do. And if you can find those annual plans along with the earning statements, these are all public facing documents because they're publicly traded. You can upload those into ChatGPT and say, I am Miranda and I work at Bob's Donut Technology. These are my 5 goals for this year. Please read or please give me the data out of this that will help me create an account plan to drive these 2 outcomes or these 3 outcomes for my customer. ChatGPT will do that for you. You have to ask for its sources. Say, okay, which page of the earnings statement did you get this from? Like, you challenge it just to make sure it's not giving you bogus information or it's hallucinating. But it is that good that you can, start. Once you start doing that, then you're off to the races. Then you're going to start realizing the power of what AI can do. But you have to start. And I will say too, if there are any leaders that are listening to this recording, please get your team's exposure to AI, even if it's something as simple as ChatGPT. It is going to be like table stakes for successful careers over the next few years. Like, CSMs and customer success leaders aren't going to be able to compete at all. I mean, revenue is hard enough, right? Not having revenue ownership is making it harder. But if you don't have like AI in your resume somehow, whether it's through creating your account plans or something way more robust, you're not going to be able to compete.
That's an awesome piece of advice. I love that really real example because I have actually not done that. That's cool. Did you find that good, Srini?
Yes,
Something new to try?
absolutely. I think I didn't try it this way. I do use ChatGPT like quite often to just understand some trends, but never like this using the company's reports and everything. I think that's a good way to start. So thank you for that, Miranda.
Of course, and I will call out too, of course, we know that AI is using our data to train. So if you are using anything that is not publicly available, please anonymize it before you put it in. You do not want to become a news article 10 years out. So,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think the point that you said that's so important, and not that this is a talk about AI, but it's a talk about professional growth for CS. And the one thing in CS that I think we can all lean into, whether it's AI tools, whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's customer scenarios, is like we have these innate instincts as CS people. Like you, Miranda, saw the results, you're like, this is not right. And you questioned it. And I think that is so important. Don't actually had it happen to me today. I looked at some data and I questioned it and I didn't take action right away. And the customer called me and said, hey, it's not right. And I was like, oh, those moments, they're there for a reason. And like lean into your strengths, learn, from what you're good at, but also learn from like the tools and things that we have around us. That like so many good messages here today.
yeah, I know we're almost out of time, but I just have to ask, has anybody here seen the old movie called Idiocracy?
Oh yeah,
I
great
have
movie.
heard about it, but I have not seen it. Okay, need to go see
Got
it.
to go watch it. Okay, so it's a Mike Judge film, and it really reminds me of this evolution we're going through right now, in so many ways. So this guy gets in this time machine. He goes, I don't know how far in the future, and they can't grow crops. They can't grow crops because they're giving it like Gatorade. It's called Brando.
Yeah.
And they're giving it Brando because that's what plants crave Brando. That's what they've been told. They're not critically thinking their way through, thinking, water? No. They think plants crave Brando. So I'm just saying, like, first, watch the movie. It's great. It's hilarious. Second, we've got to not lose that muscle of critically thinking our way through our problems and letting AI just tell us to do this, because that's what AI is telling us to do. The minute we get there, we have probably lost a little bit of value that we bring to our day-to-day.
Love that. That is such a great closing comment. And we're right at the time, so I don't want to keep anyone too much longer. Thank you so much, Miranda. This has been awesome. I think we covered so many great topics, but some really nice takeaways for everyone, I think, from your experiences, and hopefully everyone found it valuable. And thanks for the engagement all for the group. This will go up on YouTube, as I mentioned. And hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thanks again, Miranda. Follow Miranda if you're not following her, because she has some great insights that are constantly coming in the LinkedIn world and other spaces as well. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day.
Have a great day, all.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.